Do you know how hard it is to type these? It's pretty hard to type. So every time that I frag, let a couple of you fall in here before we get too carried away. But every time that I frag, I always have an elastic on my right hand. Because even though that I got stump wrists, I still need to put an elastic around it to keep the water out. So I am going to be reaching into the tank. You guys hear me? Hope you jumped in there. What's going on, Kenny, Dave, Cody? Appreciate it, man. I just got done recording this week's episode. I got stuff to do, so I got to frag. Do some late night fragging here. Yeah, just finished recording this week's podcast episode. If you guys don't listen to the podcast, check out Saltwater Aquarium Radio. Mark from Florida. How you doing, Mark? Big. We're going to be chopping up some zoanthids. I got a lot of zoanthids I need to cut in this tank. I turned on the lights, as you guys can see. One of them's not cooperating, so we're doing the live demo right now. I figured I'd have something going on in the background. That's the tank that we're going to be pulling a lot of the zoanthids out to cut up here, but I figured instead of just hanging out by myself and talking to myself and listening to music, I'd jump on here and chat it up with you guys while I'll do some cutting. Green, hey from Florida, Matt, Wyoming. Open up some glue here. I'm gonna make a mess. Making a mess. How's everybody doing tonight? Ooh, what's the best salt mix for softies? Living Green. You know, there was a point in time that I would have said any question about salt whatsoever, I'd have been like, they're all the same. Just use whatever one's easy to grab. But I have a customer that I do service with, and his system is completely automated, and we've gone through quite a few different types of salt through his system because we found inconsistencies in a lot of different brands. Right now he's landed on HW, but as far as salt goes, and softies, I wouldn't really worry too much about a reef salt. If you're going to do softies, I would probably do like just regular old-fashioned purple box Instant Ocean. Instant Ocean isn't the cleanest of salts, but it definitely, it's available, and it's not going to be all cranked up on alkalinity and calcium, magnesium. So it should work pretty good for you. Mark says he uses Red Sea Pro. Red Sea Pro is good. It's good salt. Just can't have it sitting around very long. It's not one of those ones that you mix up and, wait a week to use it. You got to use it pretty quick. All right, so I'm going to go to the tank and grab some zoanthids. I'm not sure what I'm going to grab. Let's go find out. So I'm trying out a new mic. Hopefully you guys can hear me when I walk away from the computer. But we do have some tiles that need to be cut. Looks like we got some emeralds on fire. Let's grab that. Oh, need a little water in the tray. And let's grab some Pikachu. I just rocked Yeah, waited too long on the Pikachu. It was growing to the bottom. I just rocked that frag rack. All right, towel. Ooh, bone cutters. See, this is the thing about streaming, because I was more worried about getting set up, chatting with you guys, than I was getting everything that I needed. I got my glue. I got some plugs here. I'm not going to need any accelerant. I'm going to need the bone cutters, though. I think I trashed my last batch. So I don't take care of my stuff. There we go. There we go. Brand new cutters. So I was testing these out, hoping that these were going to be something that I could use, even, create my own little frag kit. But they did rust up, and I didn't treat them very well. I didn't rinse them. I didn't dry them off or anything like that. So I definitely treated them like garbage, and they didn't hold up. But I know, like, I'm a avid bass fisherman, and we do use this product. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but it's like little pieces of cardboard that you throw in your tackle box, and it actually prevents rusting. I think I'm going to try that out and see how it goes. Matt says there's a blizzard outside. Uses the Fritz Blue. We're going to be getting some Fritz here in the store pretty soon. Cody uses Brightwell. Brightwell's a really good salt. Another good one. Glenn says, I'm super pumped for the frag farmers. Look forward to hitting up the booth. Yep, we're in room. They just released the floor plan yesterday. I think John did. I think we're in 119 at Frag Farmers Market. We're going to be with Pop Corals. Be hanging out with Pop Corals. Let's change the view here so you don't just look at my big head the whole time. All right. So we got here in the little container, we got some emeralds on fire, and we got some Pikachu zoanthids. For whatever reason, the emeralds on fire in that system, I think I might be hitting them with too much light because they're not super happy. So this is basically a really kind of quick setup of how I frag stuff. I use these dollar store tubs. We'll put a little bit of water in there. I think if I was doing a little bit less fragging, like these deli meat containers work pretty good if like you're just going to do one or two off frags. I do like using plugs. I will use a bit of egg crate, and I like to prop it up so I can put the plugs in there. When fragging zoanthids, see if I can get it in frame here. These tweezers, they're like a needle point tweezers. I actually got these with my 3D printers, and I absolutely love using these with, you see that point right there on the end. I love using these with fragging zoanthids. And then we got some bone cutters, got some glue, plugs. Where are the plugs at? We're using white plugs tonight. I usually use the black. Get those set up here. Yagi says hello, hello. What's up, man? Jacob, we are in a great hobby. Yes, we are. Love this hobby. All right, this should be enough to get us going here. A little bit of dust going on. Towel. All right. Mike sounds great. That's good because I was a little worried about this one. And actually, I started recording with it, and I didn't realize it had a button on it. I didn't realize it had a button on it, and it made a world of difference when I started using the button as opposed to just talking loud. I like, hello. Figured it didn't sound good at all, but the whole mic thing with streaming has been kind of a challenge for me. All right, so before we get too far into this, zoanthids, palytoxin, it's a thing. Wear your gloves. All right, put down your eyes. Keep your mouth closed while you are fragging the zoanthids. Be safe, folks. Take care of yourself. Not all zoanthids have palytoxin, but they should be handled as if they do. Shrapnel, that was aggressive. That was a little rough. So when I cut up the zoanthids, I usually like to get it to like 3 to 5 polyps on there. I try to stick to that. I find better success on healing at that level. This has to be the Pikachus because they were growing onto the bottom of the tank. Like I said, I got quite a few discs that I got to get through. So I've been slacking on the zoanthid. I got too much stuff going on, man. Owning a small business is a deal. It's a lot of work. You're everything when you're in a small business. But the only job I will not do is accounting. I will not do it. I'm lucky to have a very good friend that helps me out and takes care of me. Pay him. It makes my life easier. A couple on there, but we're going to clean that up a little bit. Alright. So I'm going to go through and just kind of chew this up real good. And then we'll go through and make sure I don't leave anything behind. Fish Keeper says you learned so much from my stream. Well, I haven't been doing streams for very long. Kind of late to the show. There's a lot of guys out there that have been streaming for a while. Kind of old school YouTube in a way. I like my videos, but I've been trying some different stuff out lately. Just got done recording this week's episode of the podcast. Today was a pretty busy day. Well, it's pretty chewed up at this point. All right. So this is where the tweezers come into play. I'm going to go through and kind of squirrel away all the pieces that have zoanthids on them. Probably cut that one again. A little bit on that one. We'll try that one. I don't think the success is another piece. What am I doing here? I'm not inspecting these very well. Look at me. This light isn't the best. I'll blame the light. Because you guys don't know what I have to do to make this manageable and a big bald head not be absolutely blown out by the light that I have over the cameras. Matt asked me who has influenced me in the hobby. So I'd say I'll break that up into two categories actually. Who's influenced me? Um, and one will be as like a YouTuber influence to like start sharing stuff and that sort of thing, and then um, who influenced me as a reef keeper. And um, it's changed over the years. Who's been my inspiration, I guess. But when I think all the way back to like getting started with YouTube um, and sharing this hobby, one that was a YouTuber that stepped away and just recently kind of came back was New York Stilo. Um, as a YouTuber, he influenced me quite a bit. And I would also put Mr. Saltwater Tank in that category as well. As a reef keeper, I would say that Mark Levinson, Me Loves Reef. I would also say Jake Adams was a pretty huge influence on me. And I would say Jake was kind of crossed the line as far as, reef keeper slash, influencer type, because really there wasn't a lot. Like, I've been doing this for 12 or 13 years making video content. And there wasn't a lot of things, like you had to kind of figure stuff out as you went along. And that, Reef Builders was quite a impact on me as far as an influencer goes. Yeah. I'd say, in more recent years, people that have kind of influenced me, like, I don't know them very well. I've never really spoke to them. And they've only recently started making content on YouTube, like Worldwide Corals. I'd say, them guys, Vic and Lou, and um, to build like the empire that they have built in a industry that is an inch wide and a mile deep is pretty impressive. Um, I would also put Than from Tidal Gardens, which I met Than at where did I meet Than? That was Aquashella, just before COVID. I think it was 2019. It was the first Aquashella in Dallas. I got the chance to talk with Than. He's grown by leaps and bounds over the last couple of years, seeing what he does. And I'd say probably more recently, like if you look at what I'm doing with like the live sales, starting a business, that stuff has definitely like Than's. I know that he gives credit to his team, but Than's like attention to detail on like videographies, I think the new industry go get. Yeah, there's quite a few people that have influenced me over the years. Jacob asked if I was planning on inviting people from the industry to my podcast. I used to do interviews. I had Mark Levinson on my podcast years ago. I had Than on there. Who else did I have on there? Seth from Reef Shine. A couple local folks. Had quite a few people on there over the years, and the kind of the crazy thing about that is like I know it might not seem like it here on I might not have enough glue on that one. Might not seem like it here on YouTube very much, but I am at capacity with, I think, with what one man can accomplish at this point in time. Like I have a YouTube channel that I'm trying to, obviously reconnect with you guys and make more content there. We got the store. I run the store every day. We're open 7 days a week. I take one day off a week. I'm not here on Saturdays, and I do service. I create YouTube content. I got a podcast, and I think any one of those one things, and that's probably my problem, as a person that's trying to make their way in this industry. If I just focus on one thing and did it really well, I probably would grow by leaps and bounds in that one thing. But I'm like, the shotgun approach and what I'm doing has been, basically what I've been up to for the most part. Yagi asked if I'll be at Reef Stock. Nope, I'm going to be, I believe, Reef Stock is the same weekend as the New England Frag Farmers Market. Being a New Englander, I tend to go to New England events first, and we'll have a table, Corals Unlimited, we'll have a table at the New England Frag Farmers Market this year. I am currently looking at doing some other big shows through Corals Unlimited, so that we're probably going to be out and about a little bit this year. We'll see what happens. I did just recently on the podcast ask who you guys, the listeners of the podcast, would want to hear from. I did hear back from a few people, one of which was Chris Meckley. You guys recommended him. Another person had mentioned, because I had recently talked about him on the podcast, was Rich Ross. Having him on there. I think Rich Ross is like one of the best speakers in this industry because he mends humor with his talks, and I think that's awesome. Oh, going back to who has influenced me. So I completely forgot it. So I was talking about like YouTube and as a reef keeper, and I kind of separated them. I gave you a couple there. One that I forgot to mention was garf.org, Leroy. And Leroy, like, it wasn't YouTube because YouTube really wasn't a thing then, or we weren't accessing it yet like we do today. There seemed like there was a lot of like secrets. Like when I first came into the hobby, not everybody shared their knowledge, which kind of prompted me to do what I do. But garf.org, GARF.org. I don't even know if the website's still up or not. Leroy had passed away a few years ago now, but the work that man did for the hobby, he tremendously had a huge impact on what I did for a very long time, and I fell into the do-it-yourself realm for a very long time, and he was definitely a huge impact on me as a reef keeper for a very, very, very long time. Fish keeper, please hit that like button, family. Yes, fish keeper, and everybody that if you're enjoying the podcast, well, this ain't a podcast. See, I'm still in podcast mode. Just got done that. We're not doing that anymore. Glenn just asked if he is related. Yes, that's where that coral came from. That was his. Yeah. The Garf Bonsai. That's an awesome little coral. We got a couple frags of that in the grow out system out back. He awesome dude, Leroy. And I hope that website is still up. I haven't checked it in a while. But like the information, the years and years of knowledge and experiments that gentleman did and shared with everybody was pretty huge. All right, so I'm gonna let these guys set up. I didn't really talk about it while I was doing it, but you know, I've done videos on this in the past. But you saw me like take my hand and drip some water over the corals. That isn't so much for the corals because the zoanthids, because they can actually stay out of water for an extended period of time. That is more for making the glue, you know, harden a little bit faster. Um, so yeah, Willis just checked and said it's still up. Good. I'm glad that garf.org is still operational. All right, so this one's I think that was the Pikachu that we just cut, which is a nice yellow zoanthid. I'm getting kind of low on that, so it's a good thing that I cut that up. I think I only got like a handful of frags left. This one I don't think I have any on. This is the Emeralds on Fire, and you can see there it's pretty well covered. Um, this one wasn't growing on the bottom. It's starting to a little bit, but the Pikachu, I'm probably going to have to go back in the tank and razor blade the bottom just to um, make sure that, you know, I don't have any strays growing in there. I got some mind-blowing pallies that are stuck to the bottom. Jones, props on mentioning Leroy. Extremely influential. Yes, he was. There's some translations going on there. I only speak one language. Sorry, guys. I don't even speak that one well. So let's split that right down the middle, kind of. We'll go through the top here. Okay, that wasn't very solid. All right. Let's say that was like mostly glue and epoxy. A little chunk there. So we can get 2 pieces out of that. Go, now we can work this disc. Pizza. And that right there. All right. I was going to say there's a little bit of split there between the two, but it wraps up underneath. I'm going to leave that alone. Get a little chunk there. That's a good chunk. That's a good chunk. All right. So I got 1 lone or 2 lone polyps there. Let's see if we can save those. That. There we go. Of course, my nose starts itching. I'm going to try taking off an edge there. Exactly as I predicted. So if you guys got any questions or what have you, feel free. Pretty much an open book. I have a tendency to share too much, so. And sometimes that bums people out. A little too real. All right. We're going to nip off a little extra there. Sometimes I like to trim the pieces up a little bit because more often than not, the zoanthids are going to grow down onto the disc or plug or whatever you're putting them on. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm getting greedy. Kind of touching on the whole Leroy thing. I got a freshwater order in. I don't think it was so much as Leroy as it was his other half, and forgive me for not remembering her name. But they got into saltwater mollies, and they had probably the most amount of saltwater mollies I think I had ever seen in any tank ever. I just cut my glove, and we're good. It was crazy. They had them, but I got some mollies in for freshwater. I was actually going to convert them over to saltwater just to kind of increase the bio load on the tank. Get some good little algae eaters, because mollies will definitely help maintain the tank. They're good little workers. MP Kilo. I hope I'm probably abbreviating that a little too much. What's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. On a scale, Matt. On a scale from 1 to 10, how do you think your shop is doing? Well, I've thought about that quite a bit. Obviously, I live it every day, and there was, I don't think now is the time to get into it too much, but I will answer the question to a degree. So I've done a number of different jobs. I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not as old as I look either, so calm down. But I would say that the 2 years that I've been doing this now, this has been the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life, opening up a store and selling to the public, and trying to be creative with the way in which I do things, and the brick and mortar aspect of it has dropped off quite a bit. Sales are down, but I started doing service, which has helped me out quite a bit, and I've also have started selling corals online. That also has helped me quite a bit, and there are some people out there that definitely help support what I'm doing, and I appreciate them very, very much. But as far as doing the store, I could go into it in a lot of detail, and someday I will share it all. I'll share it all, but I don't want to have, I don't want to come across too negative about it, because there's a really thin line between being honest and open and talking about something, and also coming across super negative. And I don't want to do that too much. A brick and mortar business in 2023 is a tough thing to pull off. You're up against it for sure. What do you feed your corals? Well, I don't feed them too much, depending on, I guess, what's going on with the tank. I just went to the fridge, so I probably gave it away to some of you. So in a system that I have super low nitrates or low phosphates, or it's not in the range and really in which I want it, which I do have quite a few systems in the store that I have to dose nitrates to, I will use Red Sea AB+. And I'll do that in this system on occasion. Nitrates in this system tend to ride a little bit high as of late, a little bit higher than I'd like them. The system back here, which I'll probably do like profile videos here down the road with you guys, and kind of break down the whole system. This one's kind of going through some big changes here pretty soon. But the the nitrates in that system super low all the time. Drives me nuts. I will definitely dose AB plus to that quite often, just about every other night. The directions say every day. I think that's a little much, but that's definitely my go-to coral food, and it needs to be refrigerated. Matt, I'm assuming the question also, what more do you want to do? Um, I think if I was, I gotta get these in the tank here. Been out long enough. I think if I was going to, be open with myself and honest, and trying to figure out what it is that I actually want to do when I grow up, or what I want to be when I grow up. I really enjoy what I'm doing right now, and that is propagating coral, farming coral, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it is about it, but it makes me really happy. And there isn't a whole lot in the world. My little clownfish, I say little, he's not really little, or she's not really little anymore. He's gonna knock these all over. Um, but this is definitely one of the things that makes me very, very happy. And I think that, this is probably something that I could do for the rest of my life, to be honest with you, because it doesn't really feel like work. I think aquaculture is definitely the future. Man, some of these corals are looking pretty good right now. So I got a frag. I went up to northern Maine. I say northern Maine. If there was somebody, from northern Maine that is going to listen to what the rest I have to say, their head would probably fall off their shoulders. But I went up to the Bangor area this past weekend, and I hit up a couple guys up there. Went and checked out like what they're doing in their grow facilities, and grabbed some corals off them. Trying to support local and keep my money local just the same. Especially with coral, trying to support those guys. But I got one coral that I thought I already had one of, and I didn't. It wasn't exactly, because now that I have the two right next to each other, I can actually see. Yeah, Glenn's watching me right now. I can see that they're not the same, and that frag was of a panty dropper blasto, and I thought I had one. The guy that got me the other one, which he was calling it a panty twister, and I was like, I couldn't find anything on panty twister blastos. The only thing I could find was panty dropper, and that was pretty close in coloration to it. But now that I actually have, because I know that this guy that grows it, that it is what it is. Now that I actually have that coral, I can definitely or clearly see that it is not a panty dropper. Mr. Fish Shrimp, what is a good inexpensive coral for a beginner? Zoanthids. Zoanthids are a really good beginner coral. I say that, and then I'm going to say this too, because anytime you talk about zoanthids, you need to talk about palytoxins. Palytoxins are dangerous, and they're dangerous to people. They're dangerous to dogs, pets, and it can kill people. So you got to take that into consideration. I actually was just talking about that on the podcast before I jumped on here with you guys, and that was gentleman was asking about palytoxin in the question of the week, and my last words on it. He was kind of talking about responsibility and being careful and all that, and I think it is on both the hobbyist to educate themselves and have a good understanding of what it is that they're keeping, and also the vendor to be honest, educate when they can, hobbyist, to keep people safe from palytoxin, because it is a super dangerous thing. Um, I joke about having my mouth closed at the beginning of the stream while cutting zoanthids. Haha, that's no joke, because when I first got this tank here, which is a custom aquarium, it's 8 foot by a foot, and I think it's 2 feet wide. I think it's 2 feet wide. So that tank, the fiberglass system in the back, which is 8 foot by 4 foot by 16 inches, and then the tank that I'm going to be plumbing into that system, which is around 240, I think. That is an 8 footer by 2 foot by 2 foot. All came from the same guy, and he was getting out of the hobby, and he had egg crate, like what we're using right here, egg crate racks. He had frag racks, like the instant ocean ones, and they've been in the system for a while because the plastic on the frag racks was given out, and he like the zoanthids had grown off from the plug onto the frag racks, which I still have a couple racks in the system that where that happened. I hadn't had the heart to either destroy the frag rack or cut the zoanthids out or destroy the zoanthids or whatever. But when I first got this system, I was literally like fragging hundreds and hundreds of frags of zoanthids, different types, and I think I was every night I'd close up the shop, I'd go out back, I'd turn on some tunes, and I just would frag for hours until I got tired. And I think it was Twizzlers that I was working with, and I literally, sorry, I literally put my safety glasses up. I was looking at my cut, got my cutters, and went in, cut, and then put my cutters down, put my glasses up, pull the zoanthid up, looked at it to see where my cut went, and the thing spit right in my mouth. And I was like, "Oh, was that it? Did I just do it?" Well, we'll see how this goes. I let the people know that needed to know what had happened in case something started to go downhill, but nothing happened. That's not to say that I have not been in the tank or fragging zoanthids and not felt great after. Um, I feel like, and I was talking, Joe Uyula stopped by my store. Jeez, I don't know about that one. Joe Uyula stopped by my store this past summer, which I'm located in Maine, and he's got family up this way. Which his sister had stopped by the store a couple months before he came up, and she brought him in, and I got to talk with Joe for a little while, and he had mentioned that in his system, the 20,000 gallon reef tank that they at the Long Island Aquarium, he was diving and he was feeling sick after he would dive, and they ran a bunch of tests. They didn't find anything. They didn't do a toxology test, at least I don't think so. But he had some pallies in there that he ended up removing, and then after it wasn't happening anymore. So there's something to be said about building up and immunity, but obviously I'm not going to sit here and go throw one in my mouth and chew on it. Need to be safe. Nate, what's up, Nate? Used to visit Maine. Maine is beautiful. I've moved away. I don't even know how many times I've moved away, and I keep coming back. So I've been here for a long stretch. This go. I got kids now, so that kind of slowed me down in my nomad days. Here in Wyoming now. Kindness is free. Take care. Up to 21 likes. I like the look of the mushrooms. I like zinnia also. Halting zinnia? Had a customer come in this past weekend and asked how to get rid of it. That stuff can grow pretty crazy. All right, we got 2 frags left over. Used a whole bag on that one. If you folks could hit the like button, I'd appreciate that. If you got any questions, feel free. Just fragging up some corals. It's long overdue. Yeah, we got two little polyps there on that one. And might need a little bit more glue on that one. So I don't know how many people are watching because my streaming software is blocking. So there's 43 people watching right now. So if you're a supporter of Mad Hatter's Reef, hit that like button. Hit that smash. Let's go old school. Smash that like button. Hey Brandon, thanks for jumping in, man. Appreciate you. Smash that like button. I want to hear from you guys. Out of the 40, oh, some people jumped off. That's funny. Hey, hit the like button. No, I'm leaving. That's too much. I can't handle hitting the like button. Don't tell me what to do, Mad Hatter. So for those of you that are watching right now, question for you. Lost in a mirror. I already did it. I can only do it once. I didn't see the like button. I don't know where it is. What tank are you guys on? Are you on your first tank, your second tank, third tank, fourth tank? You have 10 tanks at home going right now. I have a lot of tanks going currently. I don't know how many tanks I got going on. I got them all. Danny's Reef is rolling. He's rolling. 43 views. I asked you guys to hit the like button. We went right down to 30. I think it was 36 people. Like immediately. Not in my house. So how many of you, all right, no, that's not what I wanted. You guys didn't, all right, so out of the 40-ish people, give or take, that are still here, what tank are you on? JT's got 2 fresh, 2 salt. You got to make a decision, JT. Is it fresh or is it salt, man? Matt's on a second. William's on a second tank. I have a Saltwater, pretty new, 75. Third, I have 3 right now. I have a 55 cracked last year. Robert, on that 55 gallon, how did that tank go? Was that a successful tank for you, outside the fact that it cracked? Because obviously a cracking tank isn't considered a success. You guys blowing me up now. And that's on its first tank, a Red Sea 250. Wow. All in. Nate, I'm 2 months into my first tank. BioCube, that's a great beginner tank. Fifth tank, 100-gallon. Fish keeper's still here. Thought you were leaving, man. He has 29 gallons. All freshwater. Joe says he's got 350. Big money. Robert says nope. Okay. Then he says he's got 4 salt, 1 fresh. Glenn's got his first, over 4 years old now. Nice. That's pretty good. First tank to last you 4 years. Jones says, after many years, I finally got down to 1 tank, and I'm already back to 4. Hey, if you love it, it keeps you out of trouble. I have currently no tanks at my house. No, that's a lie. I lied to you just now. I have the water table is still there, and I decided a while back that I wasn't bringing the water table to the store, and that I'm going to set it up at home, because in the event that there was some type of issue here at the store, or something happened, I lose coral, I need that insurance policy of having that tank up and running. What do you think about branching Cephastria? So, I have very little experience with branching Cephastria, and only recently have gotten some. There was a local hobbyist. He was growing in his tank. He was showing me his tank one day. He had his video and he's playing it. And I'm like, "What's that pink stuff?" "Oh, it's branching Cephastria." I'm like, "What are you gonna bring? What are you gonna bring that in? I need some of that. I need some of that." And I was after him. There's not many coral that I am like when somebody comes in the store, I'm like, "Hey, you got any of that Cephastria?" And that was one that I was chasing him for a while. I finally got a frag. It's out back. Um, it's like hot pink. Great color on it. Great color on it. Haven't worked with it too much. It's kind of settling in, still figuring out, if it wants to grow or not. That system's been kind of wonky with maintaining the calcium and alkalinity. But, for the most part, um, I'm kind of learning as I go with the branching Cephastria. How is the pistol shrimp behaving at my store? Well, I hadn't seen much of him lately. He's been a little shy. But on other related topics to that system, I sold the whole tank. Still in the store, still here, but he doesn't do the snow globe thing as much as he was, because that was a little over the top there for a while. How much he was disrupting the sand bed. And for those of you that haven't heard the story on that, I'll keep it brief. So I had the same customer actually that brought in the Cephastria, brought in this huge pistol shrimp, and I had a blue fin goby in that tank, and I was like, yeah, I don't really want to sell pistol shrimp to somebody that's that big. I'll just throw it in my tank. And more often than not, when I say that, things don't go well. Like with a hermit crab that came in with the scarlets, when I did a large scarlet hermit crab order, it came in, I was like, that is not a scarlet. And it was a lot bigger than the scarlets, and it had like sharp pinchers. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to sell that to a customer. I'm going to throw it in my tank. We won't worry about it. It was in the tank for 2 seconds and it destroyed a clam. Absolutely destroyed a clam. And um, same story or different characters. Pistol shrimp, I'll put it in my tank. It's like, I'm not going to sell it to a customer. Turn the whole tank into a snow globe. Like just so much detritus that was in the sand bed, just kicking it up, kicking it up. And I hadn't, gone at the sand bed in a while because I got a sand sifting starfish in there. And he, I'd be, doing stuff in the store, run around, I'd turn around, look at the tank, and you wouldn't even, a snowstorm in the tank. Couldn't see anything. And the problem with that, and it happened when I wasn't here, um, he had clogged the sponge in the sump. And what that did, because that had gotten so clogged with detritus, that it wasn't allowing water to pass through into the return chamber, which is where I have my auto top off, and the auto top off kicks on. I was using the Duetto, which a lot of people kind of don't have great things to say about the Duetto. I think it's a great auto top off. Um, the Duetto threw an alarm. Person that was here just hit the button. I don't know why it's making noise. I don't want to listen to it. Hit the button. And um, it pumps a little bit more water, throws the alarm again because it's running for too long. Hit the button again. Well, essentially, the tank turned into a brackish tank, and it dumped a ton of fresh water in there. And I came in the next day, and I walking around doing my morning chores, and I turn around and look at the tank, and the Monty Pour that was in there, the Jedi Mind Trick, which I still got frags of it out back here, but the flesh is just coming up off from it and like blowing in the water column, and I'm like, oh. So I grabbed two things. I grabbed the temperature gun and the refractometer, and it's either a temperature issue or a salinity issue, and it turned out it was a salinity issue. And did a quick water change. We got the tank back in. Yeah, see, this clown's already knocking stuff over. It drives me nuts. Clean workshop is a safe workshop, folks. So, all in the end, the Monipora fought back, and it came back, and it actually looked even better than what it did when the whole thing started. And then the pump that I had in there, power head was turned off for some reason, and a lot of the detritus had settled onto the Monipora, and then eventually there came to not enough flow and a bunch of detritus sitting on it. So the pistol shrimp still in the tank against my better judgment, but he will be getting a new home. The whole tank will be getting a new home, and I've told the new owner of the tank what exactly to expect, and he seems okay with it, and we're going to end up pulling that Monipora out of there. But I'm going to be bringing that tank over to him next month, and that tank's going to have a new home. So that kind of opens the door for me for a new tank. And hopefully we can get something a little bigger, because we already kind of got the 40-gallon covered here at the store. We got a Pico, we got a 40-gallon, and I like to do something in the 150 to 200-gallon range. Hey, Matt, thanks for jumping in, man. Appreciate you. Dan says, I just got a frag of frog spawn. What are your thoughts? Frog spawn's a great coral. You're definitely better off with aquacultured. Aquacultured frog spawn is way, way better than, maricultured or wild collected. Usually your aquaculture is a lot more colorful, doing a lot better in an aquarium setting. But yeah, it's a cool coral, and it's a good, easy to frag coral. So definitely, I think it's a moderately easy LPS. W bars. I see that dollar store glue. You're right, man. So I do use Reef glue. I do, um, and really, I don't have any on me right now, but the dollar store glue works just as good in most cases in comparison to your Reef glue. Now, if I am doing a large gluing session or a fragging session like I am right now, I'm going to use the dollar store stuff because this stuff doesn't keep very well in comparison to like a lot of your other types of glues out there. I'd throw Polyp Labs glue out there. That's probably my first pick because they do small little containers like this, very similar. I think it's a little bit thicker than this stuff. But I think I don't know if it was this stream or when the last time I was streaming, chopping up zoanthids, somebody had suggested keeping the glue in the freezer. And I haven't tried that yet, but it might help, this stuff stick around a little bit longer because I'll use it, like I'll go back into this again. This is pretty used up, but I'll fold it a couple more times and get right down there. There's probably enough for like 2 more plugs, unless you bust a seam like I just did. See, I just busted a seam. Yeah, dollar store glue works pretty good. Stuart. What is the treatment for Ophelia eating flatworms? Just lost a pink frog spawn to those. Dipping, repeatedly dipping. You can, once they get in there, they're pretty hard to get out. But I would, put to work a wrasse, one that is an active hunter. I would be weary of the 6-line just because they can be a punk when they get a certain age, especially if you get a male. A lot of people get upset when you talk about 6-line wrasses of being punks, but my experience has been more often than not that they're usually fine when you first put them in the tank for a period of time, and they will get like, and I've always put it to like a sexual maturity thing. Like they get to a certain point, and they're a harem breeding fish. They usually like a group of ladies, especially the males, and they can get really aggressive towards other fish, and they're not good citizens. So I would stay away from them, but put to work some type of wrasse that's going to be a good citizen in the tank, and repeated dipping. I would say every couple of days. You could try a flatworm treatment in the tank as well. Got to be careful with that because that can be pretty harsh on fish, especially if they start releasing toxins into the water. More. What's up, Jeff? What's up, man? Jasper's saying he dipped every 4 days. I'd keep hammering on him, man. Just keep dipping, and every 4 days. I think I said 3 every 3 to 4 days. Just keep dipping and stay after it. And if you don't have any wrasses in the tank, as long as you don't have anything that's going to get chewed up by a wrasse, I'd put a wrasse to work. Mars says, same here. Polyp Lab and dollar store glue is my go-to. Sure is. Mars talks about using super glue to stop repetition necrosis on acros. That's something very similar to what they'll do on the wild reefs, going off of what Mars is saying about super glue. So I had a gentleman stop in the store a while back, and he basically is working to save the wild reefs. I forget what part of the world he's working on, but what they do is they take this paste basically that is like an epoxy, and they put antibiotics into the epoxy. And what they'll basically, like if the coral has some type of, necrosis happening to it, and you can see the line developing, it's not rapid, it's probably more slow um, tissue necrosis. They'll take that paste and they'll run it on the coral ahead of, the line of wherever the necrosis is happening, and that actually will stop the necrosis as well. Dave asked if I ever get the Caribbean blue reef chromis. I don't do much with chromis in the store. I've had horrible luck with the blue greens. The Caribbeans, I haven't gotten those in much either. Like availability, and this was part of like owning a store and learning, the seasonality of things. Because this hobby picks up in the wintertime. Everybody kind of starts paying attention to their tanks. They're fighting cabin fever or whatever, being in the house a little bit more often. And it's the exact opposite of what actually happens from, an availability standpoint as far as fish go. So in the summertime, when your diversity and what is available for fish is at its highest, most people aren't shopping. And in the wintertime, like it's the storm season on the reef, so like collecting to a degree is a lot harder for them. So like the diversity of what's available on the market drops down quite a bit. Moore says, watching a master at work. I ain't a master, man. I just love the hobby. I love your videos. I appreciate that. Very informative. I try my best. All right, so we're probably going to frag up one more disc, and then I'm going to hammer some stuff out before I got to get out of here. It's getting kind of late. I need to get home and get some Z's in because I got a big day tomorrow. So one more zoanthid collecting fragging session. You guys got any questions? Fire away. And I'm going to find... Oh, man, I got more emeralds on fire. I just fragged a whole bunch of them. All right, we'll go with something different. I know that somebody's going to hate me because I don't ever say this right. I got some Super Saions. Scions. I'm sorry. Was that Dragon Balls? I think that's Dragon Balls. I'm going to frag them up. Super Scions. Oh, I got no water in here. I know somebody has just wrecked me in the comment section. Maybe not. Maybe I got away with one. Let's just say it really fast. Super Saiyan. Like Farmer Joe or Farmer Fran or whatever it was from Waterboy. Even that, another day. So you guys are having a conversation about lighting. All right. So we got the Super Saiyans, Super Saiyan. Do I at least have Dragon Balls right? Do I got that right? Maybe not. Got a good little disc right there. It's starting to grow on the bottom. I'm slacking, guys. I need to get on here a little bit more. Yeah, see? Oh, yes, I love Dragon Balls. Am I saying it right? You guys are all laughing at me. It's all right. It's all right. Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan. Oh, me. I think I missed that. I'm technically like you guys aren't. You guys gonna. You guys are gonna die on this one. I'm technically a millennial. I don't identify as one, but I am a millennial. Be like, Jeff, there's too much white in that beard for you to be a millennial. Well, I promise you I am. I'm a Gen 1 millennial. I identify as a Gen X. So I was 100% a latchkey kid. All right, that's a good little frag right there. Perfect. Cut off the extra. Make sure it doesn't have any teeth. Oh. Well, I don't usually like to do that, but that turned into a one polyp frag. Man, I already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frags. And a whole lot to go. All right. How many of you guys catch my last video? My second question is how many of you guys are subscribed to my channel? I hope all of you. I hope all of you. But I know there's watchers out there. That right there is going to be a good candidate for start over. I do have another plug or disc of these. I'm not even going to say them anymore. You guys hurt my feelings. Super Saiyan. Get that one there. That's good. Yeah, we didn't get too crazy. I feel like that one could go again. It's just too perfect right there. All right. All right. So used up all them plugs. Another bag going. There was one left in there. Just chucked it. I usually count, but I've been pretty close the last two groups of frags that we cut. It's empty. If you guys need any fragging supplies or some corals, want to help support the channel, you can jump over to Corals Unlimited, help us out, support us. I've been working on, Mars just says, I always love your zoos. I've been kind of going back to like, the influencers of me and, more so lately, like as a business person, Than from Tidal Gardens and his ability to take photos and all that stuff in his team, because he doesn't take all the credit for that. But I've been definitely working on my coral photography quite a bit, and I need to go back through the website and take some more photos and stuff on some of the different, like mostly the acros, But I've hammered on the zoanthids. I still got some zoanthids that I need a list. Not all of them are listed on the website. I need to go through and work on that a little bit more. Dave says, or David says that glue isn't. No, this is gel. I prefer gel over any of it. Like with zoanthids are easy because they're not top heavy like your candy canes or your hammers or torches or anything like that. They you just place them, they do their thing, throw a little bit of water on them, it hardens up. But I use gel for everything. I don't think I have any up here right now, but I do have videos on the channel if you guys want to dig through the vault of using like an accelerant. So like candy canes, which I got to frag some candy canes pretty soon. And what I'll do is I use the tweezers and these guys right here. I guess I can't. You guys see them like that? I don't know. I do use the tweezers. I'll use bigger ones as well. I do have. Wow! I almost wrecked the place. I do have some big dogs that are a little rusted out. Just throwing magnesium test kits around here, and I'll use those as well. I use these actually more for cutting with the saw, so I'm trying to keep my fingers out of there. And I use these mostly for the detailed work, but they both kind of work for candy canes. It's in a spray bottle. It's made by Boston Aqua Farms. I'll spray and I'll set, spray, set, spray, set. And I won't do this. Like I won't have all of them laid out like this because if you have overspray, you're going to junk up your glue on the other plug and it'll be hard by the time you get there. But yeah, gel is kind of my go-to thing. But when I need to, I will use an. Oh, that was almost bad. Did a flipper. Oh man, I don't think I have any discs. I'm out, ain't I? Nope. Nope. One left. Gotta order some more discs. Get that going for that big chunker that we got. Dave asked for the AOIs. I got some, but they're super slow growing. I only got one disc of them. I don't have those listed on the website yet either. What are you doing to me? There we go. Struggle busing. Just recently got them to color up really, really good too. The tank had been suffering with nitrates for about a minute, and I got too aggressive with the potassium nitrate. Everything colored up real good. So we're taking it easy now. So what do you guys want to see for video content? The last video I put out didn't do all that great. I mean, it did okay, but that's been kind of the trend lately for me on making the YouTube videos. I'm going to put a little bit more glue. If you guys got suggestions on video content, let me know. I like doing the streams though. I like to do a stream once a week. I think that'd be pretty good. Here we are. Is that all of it? I gotta double check these shrapnel pieces. That's questionable right there. We don't want to throw away coral. That's an amphipod. Look at them go. It's all empty. Oh, you guys are getting quiet on me. Am I still streaming? I'm still here. It's getting late. I'm on that East Coast time. All right. I've touched my sweatshirt enough times with my gloves on. That's probably something I should be avoiding. I'll get a little bit of water on this so get that glue to start thinking about setting up. Coral photography. I'm going to tell you right, Nate, I'm going to tell you right now. Coral photography was something that escaped me for a very long time. And I'll be honest. I was running my store with cell phone pictures for like the first 6 months. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't tell you said about the coral photography. So the thumbnail on this stream, which I don't know if you guys saw that real good or not. I took that with my camera. So I decided one day I was going to sit down and commit to watching all of Tidal Garden's videos on coral photography. And I did that. And there was times that I watched it before and it just didn't click. And I don't know what it was about that day that I was like, I'm going to sit down and decide, make the decision that I'm going to get better at this. And I started making some ground. And I owe my coral photography abilities, which there's still room for improvement, but I owe all of that to watching Tidal Garden's videos. So, I mean, I'd consider doing a video on that. But I'm gonna plug my resource hardcore in that video. And if you guys want to get to that a little bit before I can get to that video, go check those videos out by Tidal Gardens. Exit asked how often is my website updated with corals. It was like I was doing it weekly there for a bit, but right now I'm kind of running lean on time. Days have been getting away from me. I've been trying to write down lists and get my list completed, and I'm finding that there's not enough hours in the day. Like right now I'm on probably the hour 14 hammering down, but I try to update the website every week. We do a doorbuster every week, even though I've slacked off the last 2 weeks. We try to do a really huge discounted price on one coral every single week. That's just like, if I fragged a bunch of, which one was this? I don't want to say the name. The Super Saiyan. Zoanthids will say like I had like 40 or 50 frags of it. I'm going to do a sale that week and try to get them out of here because there's always so much that I want to have on hand, and having 50 to 60 of the same coral, eventually you're going to get overrun with it. Morris says, I do have a question. When someone says a stable tank, as in elk and calcium, I'm assuming, do they try to keep elk and calcium the exact number with no fluctuation? And try to keep it within a few points. Yeah, so stability with calcium and alkalinity. Like calcium is going to be a lot more stable than alkalinity is, as long as your magnesium is in line. If your magnesium is out of whack, you might see a little bit more fluctuation with calcium. So I think one of the biggest hurdles that I needed to overcome when I opened the store was going, even though that I had tanks that had a lot of coral in them, to go from, one tank with a lot of corals or two tanks with a lot of corals to going to, I have one, two, three, four huge systems that have a ton of coral in them that are consuming a ton of alkalinity and calcium. Things can get out of hand really quick. And I got really frustrated, specifically with the systems out front, because it was almost like I couldn't find the right balance, because corals are coming in, corals are going out, and I got to a place where I'm like, I'm just going to rely heavily on water changes to keep my stuff straight up front. In my grow systems out back, where I'm not pulling water out all the time, I try to definitely maintain uh, a little bit easier calcium and alkalinity. Like this system here, I'm starting to sneak in SPS corals in there, but there is some LPS in there, but there's a lot of softies in there. Ton of mushrooms, ton of zoanthids. There is one very large colony of frog spawn in there. I do have my high-end mushrooms in there, which I don't have those listed on the site. I'm still working on fragging those up. And the system out back, in the very back room, is my predominantly SPS system. Um, and I find it a lot harder to maintain the calcium and alkalinity in that system, especially when the corals are happy. I think the biggest thing, when you're talking about stability with that, if you're having a fluctuation greater than 1 DKH, in a 24-hour period, which if I just leave that system alone, it will soak up 2 DKH really easy. And based on the amount of water volume that's in there, it's really hard to get back in line once it's out of whack. So, trying to stay on top of it and keeping it in line is huge to the success of that system. Nick says, hey, Jeff, I'm subbed to both channels. Love the lives and your top 10s. Hey, appreciate it, man. Ken says, I just started 2 weeks ago with 2 clowns and a bunch of frags. Cost me a small fortune. This morning, before I go to the office, my bubble tip just died. Need advice, my good friend. So you're saying that you started a week ago. Has the system only been up for a week? Because that might be tough. Cycling in an aquarium is pretty important. So I need a little bit more information on that one, Ken. I had, so I kind of got some, let's say some feedback. I'm not going to say flag, but when I first opened up the store, I was like doing daily videos, and I was sharing a lot of stuff, with folks, and I intentionally cycled the coral system in the very front of the store. And it ended up working out for me, because I did get a couple of fish that were dropped off that I didn't have tanks big enough for them at that point in time. And there was a not so hunky dory, which was here for a while, and then somebody ended up getting her. But yeah, I cycled that system, but I didn't cycle the system in the back. And one thing about Maine, we can grow some nems. We grow rainbow nems like it ain't nobody's business, or propagate nems like nobody's business. And I had a customer that had probably about 10, 15, maybe even 20. I don't even know how many it was. And I threw them into that system that wasn't cycled. And I didn't really think much about it when I did it. And I was like, because technically, and I don't want people to take this, and misinform people down the road, but you can put coral in a tank that's not cycled. That's what makes frag shows possible. you know, these guys that do these conventions that go and set up a tank that day, put a bunch of coral in it, and as long as you're running, you know, some ChemiPure in there, for the most part, the coral is going to be okay for a long enough time. I don't think NEMS, and I think somebody touched on that. You know, they said about 4 months. I don't think NEMS do very well in a system that isn't cycled, because that a NEM died in that tank, had to have, and it did not go well. I ended up, you know, the tank ended up turning into like a swamp for a period of time, and I don't know if it got chopped up and somehow got out of a basket or what ended up happening, but it was a bad deal. I ended up needing to put a UV sterilizer on there, doing a bunch of water changes, and it wasn't a good situation. I waited a little while before I tried again, and eventually NEMs are just fine in there now. But obviously the tank is cycled at this point. But you know, a lot can be said about, you know, a tank and setting it up, and then because you said that it was cycled for 10 days with live rock. That's still pretty quick, and you know, making sure, you know, I would focus on stability and getting the tank a little bit seasoned before you get too far into you know, spending a small fortune, because obviously, you know, slow and steady wins the race, especially in reef keeping. Advice on pH. Mine runs a bit lower than I'd like. You know, if you would have asked me 2 years ago about pH, I would have been, you know, pretty quick to be like, yeah, don't chase pH. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the pH. pH is nothing to worry about. My thought process on that has since changed quite a bit, and I think Chummingham's Reef kind of, you know, showed me some things, and obviously it wasn't, he was sharing with everybody because he was jumping on a bunch of people's streams and stuff, but he was sharing a lot of information about pH, and then Chris Meckley, and he kind of doubled it down on the information, and I have seen enough from what they're doing that, you know, there's something to it, and I think that maintaining a stable pH or a stable anything in this hobby is pretty important. And you know, you can do it a number of different ways. You can, you know, have a refugium in your tank and have it light an opposite light schedule of what your display tank is, so that, you know, it's reducing the amount of drop in your pH. You can dose Kalkwasser at night. But careful with that. Do your research, please. You know, there's ways to maintain an elevated pH, and I think that there is something to, obviously, because these guys are seeing great success with that, maintaining a more stable, like 8.1 pH in their system. There's guys that are doing a little bit higher than that. You don't want to go too high, because problems will come from that as well. More asked, how long would I wait to add an M? You know, I'd probably give, somebody said 4 months. I feel like 4 months would be, it kind of falls in line with that, because, you know, like, you can add a coral to a system that isn't cycled, because they don't depend on the nitrogen cycle like fish do. I think there's, you know, stability in the nitrogen cycle in your tank, and a NEM kind of, there's some, not enough information out there for folks. I think that 4 to 6 months on a NEM for the tank is a good amount of time to wait for, you know, adding one of those to the tank, for sure. You know, we have a tank. Actually, I brought my 13.5 that I had at the house to the store. We set it up. I think it was running for a month and a half before I even put hermit crabs in it. It didn't really have a dirty cycle at all, and or ugly phase, even using like dry sand and dry rock. And threw some hermit crabs in, waited a couple more weeks, put in a couple snails. This week we just put in some some clown gobies. And you guys know how I feel about clown gobies, but it's my most favorite fish to hate. Because it cost me a tremendous amount of money with my 220-gallon aquarium. Yeah, you're welcome, Ken. I hope the next go around works out for you a little bit better. As long as your fish are good and you still have some of them corals. Actually, kind of touching on that, advice I usually give folks on adding a NEM to a tank would be, to let the tank cycle, let it age a little bit, and then really the first thing that you want to add to the tank is the NEM, especially if you plan on doing corals, because it's going to take that NEM some time to figure out where it wants to be. And if you put a bunch of corals in the tank and then add the NEM, if that NEM crawls over them corals or touches those corals, it's going to tear them up pretty good, kill them, essentially. The NEM is probably one of the first things that you want to add if that's something that you want to put into the tank. And then you want to maintain your lighting and your flow, and that is going to most likely keep that NEM. I mean, there's nothing to say that it's not going to crawl off, 3 months after it's settled in, but allowing it some time to kind of settle in, do its thing. Don't change the lights, don't change the flow. You should be good to add some corals after that. Adding the corals first and then the NEM, that might be not so great of an outcome. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to jump off here. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I need to get home, get some sleep, so I can do it all over again tomorrow. Tomorrow we got the podcast. We'll be dropping a new episode of that. So if you haven't checked out Saltwater Aquarium Radio, do that. We're on everywhere where there's podcasts. We're going to be talking about the last video that we did here on YouTube, and also a way in which to handle a tank that has ick in it, and obviously doing it in a way that's both safe for the fish and corals. So if you want to check that episode out, that is dropping tomorrow. If you want to support the channel, jump over to Corals Unlimited, check us out, and I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time right here.